Welcome back to another episode of Undiagnosed Baddie, y'all. I almost forgot to record today. This one is coming out very, very late. However, Mr. Montana asks the people, single parents, without bad mouthing the other parents, why are you a single parent? Ooh, pick me, pick me. Obviously, y'all know I talk about my kid. I barely hardly ever never ever 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 talk about the baby father, and that's for several reasons. It's for privacy for myself, my kid, and all of that shit. But I do want to jump in and say why I'm a single parent without bad mouthing the other parent. Now, um, I am going to try to traject this in a positive way. Who knows where the fuck it's gonna end up, because this is Undiagnosed Baddie, your favorite daily 10-minute motherfucking podcast. Now, what I will say is I'm a single parent because I love being the primary and final decision maker for the trajectory of my child's life. I love being able to sit back and say, okay, the success is because of me. And everything is not a success. There is trial and error. But I love to take what I have learned from the generations that raised me, from the people that raised me, from what I'm learning from all of these different sources, and be able to pour that into my child. Why am I a single parent? I'm a single parent without bad. So I never lived with my baby father, never. But I did know him for probably about 20, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years before we had a baby, right? Okay. Long time, long, long, long time. And what I know, without bad mouthing anybody else, is that um, I know that children need balance. I know that I love to travel. I know that there were so many things that I like to do, and it sounds so selfish because that's literally my baby. That's my twin. We locked in literally for life. I'm a single parent because I know that it's calmer here by myself without having someone else. I see so many people co-parent, and the shit that they got to go through when they co-parent is like, damn, you might as well do this by yourself, which leads to a totally another topic, which can lead to a totally another episode, where we have women, specifically single women, going in, talking to their village, asking their village, hey, if I decide to have this baby, are you guys going to help me? These are the things that I want to do. Do you love me enough to help me for the times that I just want to go grab a coffee by myself, when I want to travel for my birthday? And they're not asking the village to be the daddy. They're just saying, can you village for me? And because there's so much headache, confusion, heartache, and just pain in the ass shit that comes with dealing with a man that doesn't have control over you. I have noticed a lot of men, this is turning. I have noticed a lot of men love a woman the fuck down, want to be with that woman and want to procreate with that woman. And then when they get that baby, they're like so jealous of the attention that the woman has to show to this new human to keep it the fuck alive. And in that, men start to become unhinged. Men start to become very nasty and vile creatures, when all the attention that was just once on them is no longer on them, and it's refocusing back on the mom, and now focusing on the baby. And I sit back, and I'm not gonna say single parenthood was easy. I'm not going to sit here and say that, because there are times where I have been sick and I still had to mother. There are times where I have been going through the lowest of the fucking low and I had to fucking parent, and I didn't have anybody to parent with, right? Now, because of that, that shit does something to your soul. That shit does something to your heart, your spirit, your will also. When you're sitting there and you're like, damn, it's just fucking me. But how long does that last? It doesn't last longer than everything on the other side. When you have people, and this is, not necessarily speaking to me, this is also other situations that I see. When you have the married single mom. I am the one who coined that on Twitter years ago. Sometimes I wish I had my original Twitter account, but I know I wrote so much crazy shit because between 2010 and 2014 was a wild time on Twitter. And I know I aided and abetted to a whole bunch of wild shit ideologies and statements. And so I'm glad that it's gone, but I know I coined the term single married mom. And it's just like, why would I want to be in a household? Why would I want to be in a relationship, married to, engaged to, partnered up with someone where I'm still doing everything the fuck by myself? I can remove a headache. I can remove the drama, y'all. And I'm gonna go there. I can remove a motherfucker in the house that just wants to stick their dick in me, in my mouth, in my ass, in my whatever it was. And I know that's crazy to say, but you can remove all of that, and that's a lot of drama, tension, stress, cortisol, weight, the fuck gone. Choosing to be a single parent, I don't think people really understand. Like, when you have a village, that village is, shout out to my Aunt Vicky. Shout out to my Aunt Terry. Shout out to my grandmother. Shout out to, I shout out the same friends all the time. Literally, Jasmine, Brooke, Sess, in different ways where I say, hey, you know, I'm sorry. I got to come vent. I got to ask a question. Can you help me work through this? What do you think should be doing? I've never had this phase. I've never had a toddler or this adolescent and preteen and teenager before. Can you help me? And sometimes just by having conversations, you understand that you're not the only one going through it. And sometimes by having the conversations, you are able to work through it and be a great parent. And then also, depending on your kid's age and their kid's age, they've already been through it or they're about to go through it. And that's community. Choosing to be a single parent, on another note, and not get, I tried, y'all. I tried with like two different men um to get into a relationship, build a family, and do the family thing. And men just love to cheat. Men love to put you in a situation. Men love for you to prove that you love them by having their baby, which changes the fucking dynamic. And I tell women all the time, you do not have to have anybody's baby to prove that you love them. And I tell men that too. I want to have a baby. I want to have this. And I want to just say, 7.5 times out of 10, the men that have told me that they want to have more kids have a lot of kids. They have 3+ kids. By a lot of women, they're owing child support. What? What do you want to have more kids for? You're chasing something, but you're not fixing yourself. That's why the fuck I'm a single parent, because the women are working on themselves. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I have flaws. I'm not saying that the women out here aren't crazy and aren't flawed. However, there's the majority of the women that are in my realm that I look up to, that are my peers. They're getting educated, they're bettering themselves, they're doing the work, they're going to see the lady, they're getting the certs, they're doing all of these things where the men are not. That's why I chose, not even necessarily chose, but that's why it is, at the end, chose to be the single parent. The men want to say, what does Spice say? I do for do. I do for do. You want to be a leader, so you want to go cheat? Well, I do for do. I cheat too. You want to be a leader and you want to do some fuck shit? I do for do. And men don't like that. And not necessarily that you wanna play those games and do shit like that, but it's like, what are we here for? And also, when men want to have these babies, the majority of it falls on the woman anyway, so why not be the primary? With that being said, I've said this before, ladies, preach this to your children. If you are not married, two things real quick. If you are not married, do not give that baby his last name. If you plan to get married or whatever it is, and you don't change your name, hyphenate that baby's last name. I'm still going to say, if you're married, I would still hyphenate the name. But make sure And don't put that man on that birth certificate. You can still prove paternity, but when you need to move around and you need to get that passport and they're withholding you from taking your baby to Disney Paris because they're jealous because they can't go because they owe child support, or their other kids can't go, or they don't have the finances because they didn't get the certs and make all the fucking money, don't put that man on that baby's child's birth certificate. Paternity can still be proven.